It's about this time on Wednesdays that we spend a little time chatting with our friend and attorney for the injured, Bruce L. Scheiner. It's called Ask the Lawyer, with the question of the week, perhaps one that you submitted. We'll find out about that momentarily. Right now, let me introduce the man of the hour. It's Bruce L. Scheiner. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, Todd. How are you doing this morning?
Just fine. How are you?
We're doing great. Surviving that pandemic, but otherwise everything's going well.
Yeah, we've all kind of gotten used to what we need to do, and we're doing it, and the numbers are slowly going down, and now we've got some tropical weather that we need to keep an eye on, so it just seems to be one thing after the other, you know?
Well, it's tropical weather time, so we're used to it.
Yeah, and we'll deal with it. Whatever cards we're dealt, we'll deal with it. Actually, as long as I brought that expression up, and speaking of cards, got a question today from somebody who seems to have all the cards stacked against them. Are you ready to dig into today's question?
Yes, sir. I'm ready.
All right. Here's what it says. I was a passenger in my mother-in-law's car when a drunk driver crossed over the center line and crashed head-on into the vehicle in which I was a passenger. I was life-flighted to Lee Memorial Hospital. I have extremely large medical bills and very severe injuries. The drunk driver had no insurance, and I don't own a car. My wife was looking over her mother's insurance coverage, which included uninsured motorist coverage, but even that was not enough for all my bills. My wife discovered her mother has something called an umbrella policy. What is an umbrella policy? Is that something which can help with my situation? Like I say, it seems as if he has a lot going against him here, but I'll bet if anybody could help, it would be Bruce Scheiner. So what do you make of this, Bruce?
Well, it's very interesting because we don't normally hear about umbrella policies.
Right.
And for those that aren't familiar with it, it's an excess policy which goes over and above their policy limits.
Okay.
So years ago, the standard policy was like 100, 300, which meant that if you injured someone, any one person could recover $100,000, and all the people together could recover $300,000.
Okay.
Well, if you bought an umbrella, it would raise that limit. And normally an umbrella is for $1 million or multiples of $1 million.
Right.
The most common is $1 million. So if you had 100, 300 underlying plus $1 million umbrella, you'd be able to recover $1,100,000.
Gotcha.
Now, this is interesting because it gets involved with one of our favorite subjects, which is uninsured motorist coverage. So when you buy an umbrella, it doesn't cover uninsured motorist coverage. You have to specifically say, I want to include uninsured motorist coverage for my umbrella.
Okay.
So it's a critical issue. Now, the person that was severely injured, like you said, all the cards were stacked against her. However, because she was in her mother-in-law's car, she's entitled to her mother-in-law's insurance coverage. And hopefully, the mother-in-law seems, to be attuned to purchasing the right insurance coverage. So hopefully her umbrella includes uninsured motorist coverage that would give her up to $1 million of coverage. So if the umbrella covers uninsured motorist coverage, her financial woes would be resolved.
Okay, so when you have an umbrella policy, you sort of have to stipulate what it covers. Is that what I'm understanding that correctly?
Well, yeah, normally it covers liability. So you have to say, I want to make sure it covers liability and uninsured motorist coverage.
So it's really going to come down to the details in that umbrella insurance policy, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's where things start to go over my head. I would recommend having a legal professional take a look at that policy and try to figure out what to do next.
Yeah, it's so important to check your coverage and understand your coverage because, unfortunately, insurance agents are just there to sell policies, and they don't often push uninsured motorist coverage, which, as we've discussed week after week, is probably the most important coverage you could procure.
Absolutely. Well, this does provide some avenue of recovery and a little ray of hope, and that's good. But again, a legal professional is going to need to really dig into this. I think that's the bottom line recommendation.
Yes, it is. And, one thing that's critically important, again, is checking your coverage. And, I'd be happy to go over any caller's insurance coverage with them and help steer them in the right direction.
Oh, that's good to hear. So if you want to make sure that you are covered appropriately for your situation, just give your office a call.
Give our office a call, ask for Bruce Scheiner, and I'm happy to review the coverage with you because
terrific.
It's critically important.
And I'm going to give that number out here in just a second, but I know your time is valuable, so I want to thank you for visiting with us a bit today, Bruce, and I look forward to talking to you next week.
I look forward to it as well, Todd. Thank you very much.
All right, take care now. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you want to take advantage of what Bruce has just offered, go over your insurance coverage, make sure it's adequate for your needs. Call the Port Charlotte office at 941-743-7777. That's 743-7777. Tell them that Todd Matthews sent you from Kicks Country 92.9.